is in the pudding, and the pudding in this case is a football. Boom! Eat my goal! The goalie has got football pie all over his shirt. Techno.
Welcome to this episode of the Down the Pool podcast. On this one, we actually get to celebrate a victory, so I'm pretty excited about this one. Our show is obviously, as anybody who was listening last week now knows, is brought to you by Molson Coors. Yeah, so that's me fired straight away after week 2, getting the fucking name of the brand wrong. So yeah, brought to you by Molson Coors, our amazing sponsors. Welcome back to the show, Gar. Hopefully you're in good form.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I can certainly say. Oh shit, I can't say it, actually. Coors Molson
Coors. There we go. Yeah, so we're definitely we just got the sponsorship and we've already lost it. So like there's a couple of little bits of housekeeping I wanted to do just before we got into the episode. This week I'm drinking Heineken 0.0. Just it's the kind of mood I'm in. Just a little plug in there. We have a competition going for tickets to the Heineken deck with a free Heineken for each ticket. Head over to Twitter and to Instagram. There's an easy question you have to do, and I think it's just like and follow the usual kind of stuff you have to do on Instagram. I was actually at the deck for a little bit on Saturday, and it's actually a nice little spot. It's nice. It's kind of tucked away in the corner. You kind of get to see everything, and the service was pretty cool.
You get a little VIP card for it because you're a Heineken.
I got one of the. I actually got one of those deck tickets, and you walk over and like you just tell the girls in behind who you are, and you get your Heineken. So yeah.
Did you ask them if they knew who you were?
Oh no, I didn't have to. They knew straight away who I was. They're like, oh, you're that down the pub guy, right? No, they did not do that whatsoever. No, but I wasn't drinking at the game because I just got my teeth out, so it was pretty much wasted on me, to be perfectly honest. So I got a Heineken 0.0, and I spent most of the game up in the media box actually because I was I don't know, I was just really paranoid that somebody's going to hit into me or something. If
hit your teeth.
Yeah, if we scored, there's like somebody hit my jaw, so I was like, I'm just going to sit up in the media bock. So
I feel like you're more likely to get your jaw hit by someone in the media box. I know the way you go on about the club sometimes.
I know. Share a bastard. No, but it's and it's very, very tight up. It's a tight squeeze up there. But yeah, so I watched the game from up there, so it's kind of nice again. I like. The view up there is pretty awesome. You get to kind of get a good see. And then I looked across and I just seen this hooligan up on the back of the stand.
Could you make me out from over there?
I could. Yeah. I saw you like seething and being angry and stuff. Yeah. I was like, oh, that's it, Gary.
Arms folded, just like looking mildly disappointed and seething at everything I see. That tends to be my modus operandi for matches.
I'm wearing a bench coat, which I thought was weird for like how hot it was. You like had one of those Alex Ferguson bench coats on with your initials on it and stuff. So one of the things I wanted to mention is best of luck in the future to a friend of the show, Dave Finlayson, who has left the Wanderers and has moved on to pastures new. Dave is an amazing ambassador for the club. Anybody who's come across him, you'll know the passion that he has for the club, and he's I think he was like a day oneer. He's been there since the start, and he just lives and breathes the Wanderers. And I guess it'd be kind of cool to get to hang out with him at a game now and not see him like the big ball of stress he is on game day, trying to keep all the sponsors happy and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So how about yourself? Have you had much interactions with Dave at the games and stuff?
Yeah, Dave's wicked. Like I remember, so I started the blog in late 2018, and I remember like I had about 10 followers for the first couple of months, and I was like churning out quite a lot of articles, and for every single article I did, it would have one retweet every single time, and it'd always be Dave. And I didn't know he worked for the club at the time. I just thought, oh, it's just a nice person who keeps retweeting everything. And he's like not dropped that level of support since then either. Like he's always, everything you do, he retweets. Like he listens and engages with it because he's always got a comment about it to show that he's read it or listened to it. Privately as well, behind the scenes, like he's always like helped out with trying to get sponsorships on board, trying to like organize live events, and like he doesn't need to do that for us either. Like we're not exactly bringing any money into the club. Like obviously his focus is actual sponsors, corporate sponsors, and I'm sure he does that really well because he puts in that much effort to help us. So I'm sure he does like loads more for the actual corporate sponsors as well. And just like aside from that, he's just like a good dude. Like he's nice. He's really nice to talk to, easy to talk to. And yeah, happy his career's on the up, and like also happy that he'll now be coming to games and we'll get to see him in games and talk to him about the match. And well, he doesn't have to wear his like club hat. He can like be more open and stuff. So yeah, good for Dave. Like lovely bloke, really, really nice guy.
Yeah, he's amazing, and I've seen him play football, and
is he good?
He's really good. He's got a wand of a right foot, but he's got a bit of a temper, which you wouldn't think when you actually talk to him. Yeah. Yeah. We were playing against his team, and he stuck a boot into somebody, but which I thought was quite funny and also quite disturbing. That it's just like that kind of serial killer, like you don't know what they're really like behind closed doors. But yeah, the club is like really lucky. I mean, like you know, from the start, a lot of the people that they've brought on board like really have got in behind the project. I mean, like you look at Marvin, who's an amazing ambassador. Dylan Lawrence, like, you know, he was the media guy, and he's kind of like he's head of content now or something like that. And then Ryan, who kind of came in and is helping who helps Dylan out, is like fantastic. Like even like Stephen and Derek themselves, like I mean, like they live and breathe the club, and you kind of need to have that. Another thing I wanted to kind of just touch on, the Nova Scotia final was on this weekend between the senior AAA between Suburban and Dunbrack. My good friend Ollie Hewish, who's also a Tottenham fan.
So many of you like rats.
I know, but he's the head coach, and he's the technical director for Suburban. So it's he's won one more trophy than Tottenham have in the last 20 years. So good for Ollie. It was a really good game. There was a ton of people up there, and it goes to show you that like the grassroots of the game here in Nova Scotia is definitely coming along. I mean, like honestly, it was up in the mainland commons. I don't know if you've been up there at the back of
that's Fairview way, isn't it?
Yeah, it's where the Wanderers actually trained, you know, that kind of
oh yeah, I know that. I know where they trained.
Yeah, so it was up there, and geez, it must have been like 400 or 500 people at it. It was nice. The bleachers were, and there was like a little singing section in the corner and all that kind of stuff. I brought the boys up, and it was a good day out. And then my last little bits and pieces before we move on to the actual game itself is obviously Kareem and Crimsow and Colin Gander are going back to school. I talked to Kareem after the game, and he's really happy that he got to go with a victory. And I felt bad for Colin Gander that he didn't get to do his little lap, I guess, at the end because he was injured, and I guess he's left already. So just if you just want to give a quick word there on what you think of Kareem and Colin's contribution so far to the season.
Yeah, I think they both like gave everything for us, which is all you can ask for, really. It was interesting watching Gander's development because he was a bit of an unknown when he came in. I thought in general he was pretty solid for us. Like he's not the most eye-catching player in the world, but I don't really want him to be honest. I think it was always about getting a professional season under his belt, proving to himself he could exist at this level, and just being as solid as possible. And then the hope going forward would be, now he's proven to himself defensively he can exist at this level, that he could start adding some more attacking bows as well. Who knows? It might be at the Wanderers grounds we see him do that. It might be for another club in the CPL, but I think he'll be an interesting squad player for any team going forward next year or the year after. So as well, I felt like we discussed it quite a lot on here. Maybe unfairly put into some game situations during the first couple of weeks of being back. But he settled in once again. We know what kind of player he is. Like, he's a centre back who's very good on the ball. You don't really want him exposed too much on set pieces or with kind of long diagonals. You don't want him to be having those duels, but what he's good at is kind of foot on the ball, looking up, seeing a picture and picking a pass out. And yeah, I mean, we saw on Saturday against Valour like how good he is at that and how secure he is in possession. So yeah, another one that will be missed, but yeah, best of luck to him back at school.
Yeah, two great guys. I totally echo what you're saying there. Like, I mean, I thought Colin was he was kind of thrown into the deep end a little bit because everybody was expecting Tabby to be the guy, and then he kind of took over and he kind of made that place his own. And he just brings something a little bit different. Like, I mean, like he's kind of like a little bit different than what Fernandez and Tabby is, that he's kind of more solid defensively. He's not the type of guy you're going to see bombing up and down the pitch, but he's also got a pretty good cross on him actually, because I think he set up a goal I think for somebody, which was a pretty nice setup. So yeah, so best of luck to the two guys. Hopefully we'll get to see them back next year. I think that both are good enough for this level. I thought Kareem was actually, as you said, played really, really well on Saturday, and it was a good way for him to kind of piece out. So then obviously the news of that was then followed by the news that we've got two new players. We've got Gabriel Escobar and Nassim Nouajaa. I hope I'm saying that right.
I think something. I saw the pronunciation guide the club gave, and I think it's something like that.
You think I would have studied it up a little bit, right?
Like you say that, I know you're going to ask me a question about them in a second, and I have no idea about either of them. I have not had time to watch anything, so yeah, I haven't studied up either.
No, it's like I've kind of obviously I've read what the club has said, and I know that Derek Simon had reached out to TSS Rovers.
Okay.
Escobar said, they said that like he likes to bomb forward, and he's got like a wand of a left foot and all that kind of stuff. So it seems to me like from what they're saying, he's kind of like a Fernandez type player, that he's gonna like bring a lot of energy. I think Nassim he was with Montreal's academy, and I think he was doing like pretty well, and then he's got like dual citizenship. I think he's like Tunisian or something like that. I think he went off to do something with that, and then he's kind of come back into the circles of Canadian football. So he's apparently according to Matt Fegan, he's let me see here. Let's look along here. He's got like his little word up. He's still only 18, but is composing the ball and strong leadership qualities. We admire, as well as a versatility to play at the back or in a holding midfield position.
Love a versatile player.
Yeah, I know. It's like their catchword for everybody. But yeah, he sounds promising. They brought him in. It's kind of a no lose situation. You bring him in a developmental contract, but it sounds of it, they're expecting him to be pushing for the first team, which.
But can't they only play a certain amount of games though, is it?
Yeah, it's like 3 games, and then you have to I guess you kind of have to make a decision on them. I think you can do like an extension or something like that. But I guess like, yeah, he's like, it's a good way to do a trial, I suppose. We haven't seen anything of Nick Gagnon at all. So
no. I mean, I guess like we've got 9 games left this season, so he only needs to play in 30% of them to get 33% of them to get a look at him.
Another thing that caught my eye reading this article, what did Matt Fegan say? Oh yeah, he was talking about Escobar. He is tenacious with an excellent mentality that will be important as we compete for the playoffs the rest of the season.
I mean, the club has to say that, don't they? Like, they can't be. We can be honest on here and say it's not a fucking job. But I mean, if you're the club, you have to. Like, can you imagine the pelters the club would get if, like, they were saying, "Yeah, the playoffs are done." Like, people.
I know, but like, just don't say anything. It's like fucking hell, man. It's like Jesus, like sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. You know. Anyway, so let's get into the game here, man. So yeah, good luck to the guys coming in. I expect we're going to see a lot more of Escobar than we might see of Nassim, but I think that from the sounds of it, I'm excited to see what he can bring for us. Team selection, it looks like we went for the same formation pretty much as Forge.
Yeah, I mean, I was quite surprised actually, because I'm almost certain I'm wrong here, but I don't recall us ever playing 5-3-2 at home. I kind of always assumed they found it a bit too stodgy and a bit too defensive to use in a home game where hypothetically the impetus should be with Halifax. But so yeah, I was at the pub and I saw the lineup and I was chatting to Shep and we were like, that looks like a 5-3-2, but no, it probably isn't because we're at home. But yeah, lo and behold, it was. And I guess the most interesting part of it for me was how the midfield was shaped. So the midfield three was Omar, Rampersad, and Jeremy. And you'd bet your house on that being Rampersad as the 6 and Omar and Jeremy as the 8s. So it was really interesting to see that Omar was actually the lone 6, the single pivot. And I liked it because that's where he played in college, and that's where he played very, very well in college and earned himself a first round draft pick for the MLS. So that's obviously his best position if playing there was what got him selected in the first round of the MLS draft. And it suited like his skill set, it suits him so much more than playing as an 8, because Omar likes to have the game happening in front of him. He likes to get the ball to feet and have nothing but wondrous players behind him and the whole game in front of him, so he can like look up and pick a pass. And you saw his qualities. You saw him doing that. Like it's the tidiest he's looked for us. It's the most crisp he's looked with his passing as well. And I just felt like I was looking at someone who finally felt at home and finally could breathe and relax and go, okay, I'm playing where I should be playing now. Because I think 2 months ago, 1 month ago even, he would have been stuck as an 8, because we were getting to the point of being so reliant on Rampersad in that position, like as a 6, that I don't think they'd have had the balls to try Omar there instead. But I mean, things have been so bad lately, we had to do that. And yeah, he flourished. He was great. And I think as well, Rampersad as an 8 really works because and like this isn't a knock on Polisi, but Polisi and Lamoth really, who both normally play there, they don't really carry the ball vertically, do they? They kind of like to shuffle sideways, do little combination play, or if you're Polisi, like just fucking smash someone and win the ball back. But Rampersad, like he likes to carry it with the ball at his feet, and he likes to be very direct and forward facing. So I think that helped as well, because it made our offensive distances a lot smaller when you've got someone like Rampersad who can connect with the two forwards. So the midfield setup was really interesting for me. Our two wing backs are far closer to being wing backs than they are being fullbacks. So again, this formation suits them. Playing with a back 3 suits us because it kind of plugs all these holes that had started to crop up and were the reason we had started to look so vulnerable and so poor defensively recently. So it just makes us more solid at the back. We've got the right personnel for wing backs. We've got the right personnel for the midfield 3. And then you've got a front 2 in Salter and Mwandwe, like a little and large thing where one person's kind of back to goal, hold up, and one person's playing off the shoulder, trying to spin in behind, make those runs. So just collectively, it looked good. It looked cohesive. Didn't look perfect, but that's understandable because we've spent the whole season playing 4-3-3 and now suddenly we've shifted. So of course it doesn't look perfect yet. But yeah, I liked it. And I hope we see more of it going forward.
I totally agree. I really think that we looked so like a much better team. Like we saw against Forge, and I know you kind of mentioned that it was almost like that we did that because we were playing Forge. But I'm kind of glad that he stuck with it too, because we just look so much more effective. You know, like even as you mentioned there, like about having Omar sitting back and Rampersad playing as an 8, like that pass that Rampersad set up for Salter, where Salter should have scored, when was the last time we saw a pass like that from anybody in the team? You know what I mean? But like putting someone in like that, I thought was really good. I thought that we were disrupting their play an awful lot in the middle, because they like to, just from where I was sitting, like they like to do like little intricate little 1-2s and little triangles, and I thought that we were breaking them up really nicely, and it ended up they just attacked down their right hand side trying to do something, and we broke up their play so many times and caused them some issues. But I must say, like having Jake Ruby back, like I forgot how much of a good player he is.
Yeah, same.
He was like solid as a rock back there. Like I don't think he put a foot wrong, and considering that he hasn't played a game of football probably in a year, was phenomenal. Like I mean, I just, you know, like, I read like, you know, I kind of talk about like how Stephen throws players in at the deep end an awful lot. That was throwing him in at the deep end again. Just like get in there and hope. And like the fact he played a full 90 as well was kind of crazy, but he was excellent. I think that nothing got past him. His positioning was incredible. He had that kind of, I think at the end he kind of gave away a free kick, but I don't even know if that was his fault. It was kind of just
His legs would have been going by that
yeah.
point as well.
So I thought he was really good. I thought that the link-up play between the defense, the wing-backs, and their forwards, like I thought that Tabby and Mowanwe played really, really well together. Like they were kind of like you know, when Fumpa had the ball and like he was pushing forward, like Tabby wasn't afraid to get up beside him. And it could, like, I think there was one where he actually went inside and Salter nearly found Tabby in the middle for a shot. So I just felt like we had so many options, and I think we were kind of pulling because their back line, especially their two center backs, are not the quickest. And I think having like Tabby and Fumpa like going at them really caused them a lot of problems. And I think, you know, we've talked a lot about Fumpa since he came in, and obviously the expectations and stuff for that. But we just haven't had that sort of player like since Karavanjevic that will attack and get his head down and just like go at it. And I know that people might get a little bit frustrated with him because he does it all the time. And I did see like a comment online, I think that, you know, he's a one-trick pony, blah, 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 blah. But I mean, we haven't had that trick. And like the fact that we have somebody who's able to push a defense backwards and make them think, like, I mean, like he won the penalty because of it. What did you think of his performance, Fumpa?
Yeah, he was great. Sorry, just quickly on what you said about Tabby as well and Fernandez being good. I think like a 5-3-2 lives and dies by the wing backs and the job they do. I think like the wing backs in a 5-3-2, they're your stabilizers. If you know kids ride bikes, you need like stabilizing wheels. They're basically that. And 5-3-2 looks really good when the wing backs are on it positionally. So they know when to go and they know when to tuck back and they know when to like keep that flat line with the back three and making it a back five. And 5-3-2 can look really bad when the wing backs aren't on it because it constantly looks like you're really vulnerable down the flanks. But I thought they were both really good at the balance of when to go and when to drop back as well. So yeah, they were excellent. Mowanwe was great again. I think we tend to when we watch football, and we all do this, like we tend to only focus on what a player does when they've got the ball, when they're in possession. And like if you think about a player throughout a game of football, throughout 90 minutes of football, they're probably only touching the ball for about 2-3 minutes, especially for forwards. So we kind of base everything we see on those 2 or 3 minutes when there's another 87 minutes of them making constant runs. And like that's what I like about Mowanwe. He is constantly looking to make a run in behind. He's constantly looking to stretch the opposition centre backs. And we didn't really, when that little period we had before we signed him, when we had like Daniels as a false nine, Salter, Marshall or whatever, like we didn't really have anyone making those sorts of runs. We had just 3 creative players who wanted to like touch the ball a lot and look for little combination play. But Mowanwe is just so direct. All he wants to do is run in behind. All he wants to do is score. Fantastic dribbler, like really, really jinky, low center of gravity, so he can kind of wriggle under players as well. Shep pointed this out to me as well. I didn't really notice it till he said, but like he was like, if you look at Valour, they've definitely been told not to go anywhere near him when he's in the box, because they've obviously watched tape of him and gone, he's really good at winning penalties. So you see, like anytime he's in the box, Valour players are like putting their arms in the air, showing they're not touching him and stuff. But even by doing that, they still ended up giving a penalty away, because when you do what he does and try and like beat players in the box, try and dribble in the box, like you have to do something as a defender. And he's so good at winning penalties that if you do anything, he will go down. He will, I don't want to say make it look like there was contact, because that suggests he was diving. I don't think he was diving, but he certainly knows how to make it look like it was probably a bit worse than it was. So yeah, he was really, really good. I can still see the growth of the player though, and what he can become, because I think he still needs to work on how he plays with his back to goal. And if he's a striker in this league, a very, very physical league, like you have to do a lot of back to goal work. And I actually think he could look at like, I mean, Akeem has really not had a good 2 years now. But like, one thing Akeem can always do is protect the ball with his back to goal. He just backs his ass in and like shields it really well. And I think Fumpa, the physicality of doing that isn't there yet for him. I don't think he's got the upper body strength or like the robustness in his hips to protect the ball with his back to goal. So that's something, again, in the off season, like hitting the gym, working really, really hard on those movements and like how to angle your body when you receive it with your back to goal. That's all to come, and that's all coachable stuff that he's going to get better at. But yeah, he's felt like a breath of fresh air since he came into the team, and he's only going to get better as well.
Yeah, like we've definitely needed a lift, and whenever he gets the ball, there's a sense of anticipation that he's going to do something. And even when he doesn't, you know, like you can see he gets a little bit frustrated with himself when something doesn't come off. But like when he makes those runs and he doesn't get the ball, like he's not an asshole and it's just like fucking pass to me, you know what I mean? Like he's kind of he's a proper team player. In relation to what you're saying about holding the ball up, I mean, he was playing against one of the biggest defenders in the league, in John, and I think that stands like that'll be put him in good stead for the rest of the season, just to kind of give him an idea of what he's kind of up against. But I mean, even for like the goal or for when he hit the post, like that was out of nothing really. Like I mean, like it was, you wanted to expect him to shoot, and the keeper was like well and truly beaten. And for the penalty, like if I'm a Valour fan, like I'd be pissed at Bakero. There was no need for him to jump in there. But as you said, like when you're a defender, it's like it's a natural instinct that you want to do something. You want to be like, you kind of sense a danger and you just need to stick a leg out and like, you know, and when somebody's that quick and there's just that second ahead of you, like you're fucked. And as soon as he stuck that leg out, like it was going to be a penalty. But, you know, like just to kind of change tack a little bit, like obviously the goal we got was a penalty, so we haven't scored from open play again, kind of thing. I just looked at like the chance that Salter had, and I looked at, I don't know if you saw the Pacific game, like the chance that Josh Hare took in the 8th minute. Like these are the differences I think between that top tier and like the kind of the rest of us. So do you think that's like Sam Salter can become that type of player? Because I mean he's had a couple of games now when he's had chances like this and he's snatched at them. Is it a confidence thing? Is it something he needs to work on? Will he ever get there? Like, do we need to, like, as a club, like, stop? Like, you know, we were kind of just talking a little bit before off air. Like, I mean, like, you saw Babouli coming into to York and Hamilton into Forge, and I don't want to harp on about that, but we don't have, I don't think, that kind of a player that can like finish chances like that for us. So do you think it's something that we need to address in the off season, or do you stick with Salter and hope that, you know, he kind of irons that out?
I think Salter, when you have Morelli as foil, is fine, because Morelli is the person that he's our Babouli, he's our Hamilton, he's the one that smashes 15 a season in. And I think the Salter of maybe 2 months ago scores that all day long. Like if you think back to that goal he scored away to Edmonton, which was way, way harder than that chance. Like he scores that all day long. Maybe it is a bit of confidence. Maybe he had a bit of a hot streak a couple of months ago and he hasn't really been on it so much recently. So maybe that's playing on his mind a bit. I think with that chance, he just didn't quite get his feet right. Like you see, he fell over after he missed it. So I think he was off balance a little bit. And yeah, he absolutely should have scored though. I mean, we say about like we didn't score any open play goals in that game, but that chance was an incredibly good chance. Fumpa hitting the post wasn't a particularly good chance, but it was a good effort. And then I think it was Rampersad had a header in the second half as well, which was basically an open goal. So on another day, that's 4-1 and we scored 3 open play goals. But I'm loath to say that because I feel like I've been talking about this club for 3 years and I've said that so many times. Like we had the chances, and there comes a point where that's not an excuse anymore. It's like it becomes a feature, not a bug. So yeah, I don't like to use that excuse anymore, even though it's true for Saturday.
Yeah, and I mean, like even at the, you know, like last season, that was one of the big things about us, that we were creating tons of chances. This season we've had games when we've created like lots of chances and we just never seemed to be able to put them away. And even, like last season, we still had like Morelli, but outside of him, we just didn't have anybody else that was able to do stuff at the same level. And I think at some stage we're going to have to come to a realization that maybe we need to, instead of like just constantly giving younger guys or unknowns a chance, maybe just like bite the bullet and just go for somebody and risk it.
Bring back Pereira.
Man, what a legend. But yeah, like and that sorry, that was like, I just feel like we like sometimes we need to like not just be like homers, and we kind of just need to kind of talk a little bit, whatever. But I mean, I just thought that
no, mate, no, I don't think you need to apologize for that. It's a perfectly valid point. Like, if you just look at the goals for and against columns in the league table, and that tells you that is a huge issue for us. And if you look at Saturday's game in isolation, I think you say there's nothing to worry about there, actually, because we had the chances and on another day they'll go in. But that's the first game I can think of in quite a long time where we've created that many really good chances. So normally it's more of an issue of creating anything. So yeah, Saturday in isolation, fair enough. But overall, over the season, we haven't created anywhere near enough. So I think that's perfectly valid. Perfectly valid.
I did want to bring up just before we get into like the second half and the battle royale outside the box. We had like a former Wanderer come in town, Alessandro Rigi, who I think he's a great guy. I thought he was a great ambassador for the club when he was here. He's a really nice guy, but I kind of felt bad for him that he got taken off at half time. And for the life of me, I don't understand why. Like, I'm not trying to, this isn't a Valour podcast, so I shouldn't really give a shit, but I actually like the guy. And I think that he was like one of the players that when he was actually given the ball was actually causing some trouble. But yeah, it was great to see him kind of back, and he looks fit, and he looks up for it. It was kind of nice to see.
Yeah, I think as a player, he's changed his game, and I don't think with us he'd quite figured out what he was now. Because if you think of him in USL with the Impact Academy, like, he was a quick dribbler, and he kind of liked to kind of go on the outside. But after his injuries, and they were really serious injuries, yep. I don't think he can do that anymore. So he's becoming something else now. He's more of like a half space, small space player now. And he's really, really secure as well. So you can trust him in those areas. And yeah, very happy for him as well. I remember when he first signed with Wanderers, so this was 2.5 years ago, I did an interview with him for my blog. So it was like a phone call interview, and then I transcribed it and wrote up a load of bollocks around it to make it sound better. And I remember him saying to me, and I didn't put this in the blog because I thought afterwards he might have regretted saying it to me, so I didn't include it. And like, enough time has passed now where I think it's okay to talk about it, and he's kind of proved it wrong. So he said during the interview that he was like, yeah, I still haven't really gotten over those injuries I had. Like, he was like, I still don't know if I'm going to be able to play professionally anymore. And when he said it to me, I was like, fucking hell, we've just signed him. And like, wow. Like, why is he being this open about this now? And like, yeah, like I said, when I wrote up the article, I made a conscious decision not to include that because, again, I thought maybe he was having kind of a vulnerable day and would have regretted saying that. And I feel okay saying it now because he's proved he can play professionally still. He's played for the last 2.5 years since he said that. So he obviously proved to himself he could and got going again. But it just shows you, like, in terms of from a mental health perspective, the players have these deep insecurities and these deep fears about their career. And like you said, he, by all accounts, is a lovely guy. So it's really nice that he's overcome that and is carving out himself as I don't know what he's going to be positionally. Like I'm interested to see how he develops because he's so good, and it's just going to be how he uses that now. He doesn't have the pace to go alongside it as well, but he's definitely like CPL caliber, and yeah, it's nice to see him doing well.
Yeah, I could see him almost playing in as a 10 or something like that, like a kind of a playmaker. Because was it last week whoever they were playing? I think it was Ottawa or where we played like a beautiful through ball for one of their goals. And yeah, like that's the thing. Like even up until last year, he was still unsure of his body and like what's been through. And I like, you know, I don't want to over egg the whole thing about him being injured and like he's not the type of guy that would want a big sub story over him and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, like it's just great seeing him back out playing football, and you know, he's really found a good niche for himself in Valour. And I didn't think he deserved to be taken off at halftime. I just wanted to
it may be an injury, because I thought he was probably their best player, to be honest.
Yeah, like there was one there just before Salter's chance. I think he did a cross that Oxen was kind of
just got a fingertip to.
Yeah. So so just moving on then, like to the second half, then kind of more the same. I thought, like, you know, they tried to change things up a little bit. They brought Daryl Fordyce on and things like that, and he's Daryl Fordyce used to be a striker, and then when he was playing the League of Ireland there before he came here, he'd kind of developed into this kind of central defensive midfielder, because he's got a great range passing, and there's a couple of times when he's able to ping a few passes, but I don't think that they were able to create very much, and you could see the frustration was starting to get to them, which led to the red card. But from where you were, what did you make of the melee, I guess, and the referee like falling over and everything? It was amazing.
I didn't know the ref had fallen until I watched the replay, because that was happening like over the heads of the people I could see. I was really surprised to see Omar charging in there to like give it some, because he has always seemed like this really cool, level-headed guy. So it was weird to see him kind of lose his shit a bit and go in. But you want to see that, don't you? You want to see like players sticking up for their teammates and the whole brotherhood and I've got your back. Like that would have been very problematic if that happened and we didn't have half our team charging in to support Rampersad and Fernandez, who was down. But yeah, I couldn't really work out what happened with like, how did the ref end up on the deck? Like,
so my timeline is like Fernandez got fouled and the ref blew, and then their player I think came through Rampersad, and that's when everybody kind of came over. And I think I've noticed that some of the CPL referees like tend to step in the way to try and stop both sides, and I guess that like somebody had come in from the side to kind of push and shove, and that's how the referee kind of got like knocked somebody into the referee, if you know what I mean, and he kind of went on his head over tit. It was like, obviously you don't want to see a referee fall.
Of course you fucking do.
I know, man. It was fucking,
no one wants to see that. Yes, they do.
I had a fucking great view of it. It was like Keystone Cops thing, man. It was fucking amazing. But as you said, like it was kind of like you mentioned earlier on about Omar's performance, and a lot of people came away from the game like when I was talking to them saying he had a fantastic game, but there was a nice like little bite to him, wasn't there? Like, I mean, even like that bit when he came in, like whatever, but even like during the game, I thought he had like a little bit more about him. He I guess like playing in his normal position, because I guess like the last time he played, he wasn't playing as a 6. I think he's playing as an 8 because Rampersad was back there. And it's nice that Stephen Hart's actually like is trusting him to go in there and do the Rampersad role. And I guess having Rampersad beside you isn't too bad either. But man, I thought he was excellent. I thought like it was having Jeremy back too. Like I wouldn't say it was Jeremy's greatest game ever, but just having that kind of stability and like, so like, you know, like you can trust them. You know what I mean? When you're a player.
Stability is the word. Yes, it's all stability with him, and balance as well. Like we sometimes look a bit lopsided when he's not playing, because we're better, like we've talked about this before, but we tend to be better playing down the right hand side, and especially when Jeremy's not there on the left to add that stability and add that balance, we look very, very lopsided. So yeah, just it was so nice to have him back. And I think like we talked on the pod last week, and I said I felt quite confident about that game and thought we were going to beat Valour, and a lot of that is because Jeremy was back, and such a good player, so technical, so tidy, doesn't like, I can't really think of him ever losing the ball for a mistake, so you guaranteed a 7 out of 10 from him every single week. So yeah, really good to have him back.
Big time. And I must say, I thought we saw the game out really professionally. I think it was against Calvary when it was 2-2. I kind of mentioned that Stephen Hart wasn't the happiest in the dressing room afterwards, because he thought that the senior players should have taken more of a role of keeping the ball rather than trying to go for that second goal. I thought the way that we sought out the game was very, very professional. We kind of went for the corners and we just
they started going for the corner proper early as well. I think it was like the 85th minute the first time I noticed it. I was fucking hell.
The 46 minutes straight into the corner.
I was like that. And I can't remember who it was. It might have been Robinson actually, and his ears were probably ringing because it was him in the Cavalry game, wasn't it? Who lost the ball. And I think it was him, maybe it was him, in like the 85th minute, and he kind of got the ball. And I saw him he looked up and then he looked over at the corner flag and I was like, oh shit, shot. And then I noticed Rampy turn around and look at the scoreboard to see what minute it was as well. And they obviously figured out that, all right, we're going to start doing it from now. And to be fair, it did take the sting out of the game. It never felt too dodgy towards the end, did it? It always felt
there was that kind of free kick at the end, as you said, at Ruby's legs were starting to go a little bit, but apart from that, they didn't really cause that much trouble. Considering the players that they have, I think though it was a very professional performance. Stephen Hart been under an awful lot of pressure, a lot of people on his back, in a lot of cases maybe deservedly so. But I think he got his tactics spot on. Substitutions were spot on. Personnel was spot on. So it was a good day all around, I thought.
What do you think? Something I've been thinking about and talked to a few people on Twitter about as well is, do you think this is it now? Will be a 5-3-2 team until the end of the season, or do you think this was more of a push in case of emergency? Let's just get solid for a little while, and then we can kind of go back to the system. Or
I think I don't know whether I'm old fashioned or not, but I think that a lot of times you kind of have to play. You have to be adaptable, I think. And I think that's one of our problems this year is that we were so rigid. We were so rigid in the system that we had, trying to force it to work when we didn't need to. I've kind of mentioned before when you're talking to Bobby Smirniotis or you're talking to Tommy Whelan Jr., a lot of it's kind of bollocks too, because it's trying to sound like you're Carlo Ancelotti or something like that. But they're talking about transitioning and changing formations and throughout the game, where it's not just you set up one way and then you adapt as the game goes on. And I feel like we're not very good at that. And I that's why when we were doing the 4-3-3, I don't think we had the players to do it. I don't think the play we're just trying to plug players into whatever, and we were never able to adapt to it. And I think this is the first time when you look at the players that we had out, and you could see, okay, Fernandez is a wing back, Tabby's a wing back, the three at the back are defenders, the midfielders, everybody just looked in a position that they're comfortable with. And I think when our first 11 are playing and they're playing well, we are able to compete for the most part in the league, I think. And I just think that that's been one of our big problems, is that coaching management has been very stubborn in the way that they've been setting the teams up. And I think this goes to show that if you're willing to adapt, you might find a winning formula. But that's kind of the way.
I agree completely. I think you need to start the season with one or two formations in your back pocket. You can't just rely on one because by the third or fourth game, other teams have all the data points they need on you. They know how you play. They know which side you're vulnerable on. So you need to be able to offer a bit of unpredictability, and you need to be able to switch in game if it isn't working. If you think back to those Forge games where we lost 3 and 4-0 at home, by the 20th minute of those games, we should have switched to a 5-3-2. Yep. And those games, we might still have lost those games, but we would not have lost 3-0 or 4-0. But I mean, it's difficult to switch to 5-3-2 because you essentially, if you're going to do it in game, one of your midfielders or attackers has to either be subbed off for a centre back or capable of dropping back and playing as a centre back. So if you look at our team, if we're playing 4-3-3 and we have Rampasad, Jeremy and Polisi in midfield, hypothetically, one of them would move back as a centre back, and then one of the forwards would move back as a centre midfielder. So Daniels can do that, for example. Daniels is our false 9. Okay, he comes back as one of the midfield 3. Polisi drops into central defence. So that kind of works. You can do that, but it's not ideal. So I think, and then if you think about a team like Cavalry, they can do that because I think Elliot Simmons can do a fine job as a right-sided centre back, playing out from the back. So that is the difficulty of that, especially moving to 5-3-2. But then what do you have training for all week if that's not to work on these contingency plans and kind of train up one of our midfielders to be able to drop back in as a centre back? So yeah, completely agree. You need that versatility and adaptability to just keep teams guessing. Like, don't make us easy to play against. Don't make us easy to scout. Like, you want them to be sitting in the dressing room and doing their work throughout the week and going and second guessing everything, going, oh, they might play 4-2-3-1, but they might play this and they might play this. And you need that to be a team that competes at this level, I think. And so hopefully this is it now. Hopefully we understand the 5-3-2, we understand the 4-3-3, and we can become much more malleable as a result.
But that I think that goes back to, and it's been talked to death about, like when Morelli got injured, like rather than us trying to adapt the system to the players that we then had, we tried to keep that system as if Morelli was just going to be a slot-in replacement for him, and it was never going to work, because if you're building like one system around like a player like that, and then they're not in there anymore, like you got to realize you don't have that player anymore. You know what I mean? And I think that's always been like a problem with the Wanderers, is that we've always tried to go for this versatile players and hope that somebody will be able to play somewhere and stuff like that. Whereas I think with this formation, we actually had players playing where they should play, and you can see the difference. Like, they look comfortable. Like, there wasn't too many errors. Like, I mean, even like with Tabby, who's he's been through the grinder a little bit. Like, I thought he was really like secure and stuff like that. And obviously having Jeremy kind of alongside him, I think is massive for him, because like if he goes or he makes an error, he has somebody who's willing to slot in beside him and help him out, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And I don't know whether if Polisi or Lamotte are playing that they're doing that kind of thing. You know what I mean? And I think that's why Jeremy is like such an important part of this team, and I hope that he stays for a little bit longer, because he's one of the players I think that's going to bring along the core of young players. Because he's just smart in the way he plays the game, and you can learn a lot from him.
Have we got an option on him for next year?
I think we've got an option.
Okay, I can't foresee them not taking that option. Surely,
unless he gets an offer somewhere else. That's the problem, right?
Yeah.
But
he's good enough to play at a high level, in my opinion.
There's people who do like these like charts all the time, and I think there's hardly any players we really have options. We have a lot of options next year, but we don't have a lot of players signed. So so just before we go, I just wanted to look into our Molson mailbag.
Okay, nice. Our Moore's Colson mailbag.
Oh God! Somebody did ask us a question. So
Denton asked a question, didn't he?
He did. I will find out in a second on somebody else. So one of the questions we got asked was about the new players, and I think we've answered that. You think there are already some players the club knows they aren't bringing back next year? For example, is Garcia not playing because the club wants to see what they have in some other forwards, or because they've given up on Garcia? Maybe both.
I would say if you polled anyone that pays attention to Wanderers in any kind of depth, like watches home and away, the list of players you have as supporters who shouldn't come back next season are probably pretty close to the players that the club also doesn't think should come back next season. I actually think on a human level, it's a really difficult decision to make. But if we're kind of just looking at this very coldly and without emotion, we all know which players shouldn't still be at the club next season. I'm like, again, maybe we can have a chat in depth about that at the end of the season. I'm still kind of going back and forth on how comfortable I feel about saying these names out loud. But I mean, I guess it's a chat we need to have eventually. But yeah, I think the club knows roughly. I think there's probably still some who are fighting for a contract offer, but I think that list is quite small. Like we talked about it last week, we have 9 attackers, and I think we'll have 4 of them max at the club next season.
I did reply to the person who posted this one that I did see him do a warm up, so I think he might have been injured because he was up in the media box at Kareem. So I think that's why he wasn't selected. I think that he's probably carrying a knock, but at the same time, it's going to be difficult. I think there's going to be a lot of difficult conversations, because the problem too is that, like, just on the back of like Dave Finlayson leaving, it's we're at like it's nostalgia for that like that start. You know what I mean? Like Akeem scored the first goal. Peter was here like for, you know, he was like one of the big stars of the first season, and it's going to be tough letting people go, you know. But unfortunately, it's part of football and it sucks. But you know, we're all going to have to face up to the realities that these guys aren't going to be here forever, unfortunately. So,
especially because the club and the players we've had on the most part are so good at like the community stuff as well. Yeah, and are so good at like going to these community events, like not phoning it in, actually like engaging with the people they're doing it with, engaging with the kids. And I think you build relationships like that, don't you? Like there's a lot of supporters who probably have name basis relationships with a lot of the players because it's just that sort of club, which is a good thing. But it also means when it comes to making decisions about players' futures, like the people making those decisions have to put that to one side, which I don't envy them for at all. I think so that's probably, well, not probably, is the worst part of like Derek, Matt and Stephen's job is doing that, I'm sure. But it's professional sports, isn't it? You know what you're signing up for. The players know what they're signing up for. It's that sort of industry. So yeah. It's I think, honestly, I think in the off season there's going to be, I'm going to get my cultural reference point wrong here, but what's that Game of Thrones episode that everyone references where half the cast got killed off, half the characters got killed off, like the Red Wedding or something? I'm
glad to say I've never watched Game of
Thrones.
So
I haven't either. Like, I know that as a cultural reference point, and I think it's going to be like that, where more than half of the squad is gone.
I think it's going to be like the end of the first season going into the Island Games, where quite a big turnover, and I think it's kind of needed. But at the same time, though, I think that whoever's in charge of recruitment needs to take some of the responsibility that like the players that we're bringing in, and I don't think it's fair to say that they're just not good players. I just think that for the systems and for what we're trying to do, they're just not the right players, and I think that's kind of unfair on them. And I think that's somewhere that as a club we kind of need to learn stuff a little bit better, rather than just trying to get a player in and hoping they come. And I said this the last time, just hoping they come good and that we might have somebody to sell on, rather than bringing in a player that we need. And I think that's the difference. I think if you look at like with Calvary and Forge and Pacific, like when somebody moves on or whatever like that, like there's they know who they need to bring in to replace them. Like we brought in Amla, and it was I felt it was just like we just did it just because he played well and it was a good chance of us getting a good player. You know what I mean? Like
I think with that, I think when we're talking about our recruitment, I think we have to make a distinction between our off-season recruitment and our mid-season recruitment, because I actually think our off-season recruitment has always been really good. Like if you think about the rebuild they did from 2019 to 2020, where we were dreadful in 2019, and that rebuild was excellent. Like if you think of the players that came in then, that was like the Morelli summer, the Sissoko summer, James Jaffrard. It was a really, really good rebuild. So that was an excellent summer. But yeah, I agree. Like the stuff we've done mid-season has never quite worked. And I think if you look at the players that are not going to earn themselves a new contract, like a high percentage of them are mid-season signings, because it's a bit of a crapshoot at that time, isn't it? Like, you just need to fling stuff at the wall and see what sticks. But yeah, it's going to be a huge job in the off season, which is kind of good for fans because we get like a lot of like signings to research and stuff. So that makes it quite a fun off season for us. But yeah, so fuck having to do that.
We'll just call him Matt the Chopper Fegan when we're.
I think it's all three. Like I imagine the chats then three have had like sitting down in front of a whiteboard, and it's like
I don't envy them whatsoever, man. It's fucking horrible. It's the worst part of the fucking.
I wonder
game.
who's like who makes the final decision. Like I'm not privy to that information, but I wonder if it's Derek or Stephen or Matt who's the one that goes. Nah.
The person I would want making that decision is the coach, because he's the guy that's supposed to be putting the team together and making the formation. So I would like to think that he would have the final say, but I know that in modern football that's not the way it really works. Is that like the director of football or whoever goes out and gets the players, and the manager has to mold them. So anyway,
I think Hart's a bit of a traditionalist, though. I don't see him working in that sort of environment where he feels like he's undermined by anyone. So yeah. I think it would come from him, or maybe like Dorado's like a silent assassin. It's like he just like see or no. He just like gives a thumbs up and a thumbs down for every player. Yeah.
So that's Gary's homework for next week, is to talk to Matt Fegan and find out who has the final say and giving the person the heave ho.
Yeah.
So this one's from Denton. So thankfully we're going to end on a kind of happier question.
Cool.
What's your ideal Wanderers away trip? The efficiency of zipping to Toronto, the scenery of Victoria, the wild ruckus of Calgary, or would you prefer to wait for a big game like a CPL final or an MLS Canadian Championship match?
Like it doesn't exist yet, but my dream away game would always be St. John's, Newfoundland. I'd absolutely love it if they got a team there, because you can kind of do an away weekend there pretty easily, can't you? Yeah. And I think, like, I don't know that, I've only been there once, but I wonder if there is space for a soccer specific stadium there. So that'd be.
Don't they have one already? Because it didn't.
I don't know, mate.
Canada qualified for the World Cup in St. John.
Oh yeah, of course they did.
St. John's, yeah. So, but
they
like,
must have something. Yeah,
I think Moncton would probably be the one that would be more likely to happen, because they already have a proper stadium there. So
yeah, I wonder if there'd be the support there to. But
who
I
the fuck
man,
wants to Moncton?
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
dreary place. Apologies to everyone who listens who lives there, but yeah. But in terms of stadiums that exist now, like, just I'd quite like to go to Pacific, just because that looks like a really nice part of the country, and I've not been west beyond Toronto, so yeah, that's my answer.
So scenery wise, I would like to go see the Pacific game, but just atmosphere wise, I'd like to go to Calgary. Calgary, just see the stadium looks. I think that's a good blueprint for what we want to do. I think, like, the covered stands and a little bit that's open. Atletico Ottawa are building a nice little thing in with their fan base and stuff for that, but it's just that stadium is way too big for where they are right now. But I'd like to go to Calgary, just see the game, jump on a plane, and just go back home. I don't really
they're not have to stay there.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, man. So thank God we got to see a victory. It's been fun looking back at what's been going on. Don't forget to check out our competition on our Instagram at Down the Pub Pod. It's also on Twitter at Down the Pub Pod. I think I said Thursday is when I'll give the winners the heads up that they've won. We've got 2 games coming up. We've got Ottawa, and then we've got Pacific on Saturday. So we'll probably do a double header then. Next Tuesday. Yeah. Hopefully the sponsors will be okay with that, and they won't get angry at us.
Fine, yeah.
Well,
do we get to give 2 Heineken boxes away for the next pod then, if there's 2 matches? Is that how it works?
No, it's not how it works. Plus, also, we're probably going to get fired since we've been calling it Colson Moors for
Molson Coors. Oh, fucking hell.
So we both have homework for next week. Mine is to learn the name of our sponsor properly, and yours is to find out
who fires the players.
Who's the assassin in the in the club.
Right.
So, Gareth, it's been an absolute pleasure, man. Talk to you soon, buddy.
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Folks, please. Right foot, please. Time to drink up, folks. Get out. Out to folks.